What's up, peers, and welcome here again to the World Crypto Network, where we continue our discussion about the Wasabi wallet. Here, this beautiful tool that can help you achieve your privacy back here on the beautiful Bitcoin blockchain. So stay tuned here. It's going to be an interesting conversation about some fantastic new changes with a major update to this cool software. And we're joined by the two heroes, the two black belts, the wizards of the Wasabi wallet, by the two developers. Adam, what's up?
Well, thank you for the introduction.
And Lucas, how are you doing?
Hi, Max. Thanks for having us.
Well, first of all, thank you to both of you for working on this amazing software, because it really is a beauty, and you help a lot of people, so that is fantastic. And thanks for putting up with all the questions here, and for coming here on the show as well, so we can educate others on how to use this software as easy and as fruitful as possible. So great work. Keep it up.
Thank you.
And of course, this is a live show, so be active in the chat and talk to us, ask your questions, and then we can make sure that we have all this covered. We are of course talking about the Wasabi wallet here, reclaim your privacy now. And just yesterday, I showed this page, and it was at 4,800 Bitcoin, and already today, Wasabi has made over 5,000. And 98 Bitcoin fungible since August 1st, 2018, the 1-year anniversary of UESF. So that is absolutely phenomenal. Now over 5,000 Bitcoin have been fungible, or have been made fungible, and now can be much more private and selective in their use. So Adam, what do you think about that? That is quite an achievement. And what exactly does that number say?
Oh, we can barely keep up with the new users every day, more and more. It's on the one hand is really exciting, on the other hand is really frightening. Last time we had to buy a new server because it wasn't able to keep up with the demand. You asked me about the number. The number shows that how many equal outputs are created. Now with the new release, this number is not, it's more misleading, because before that we were creating equal outputs in every mix with one denomination. So that was the anonymity set of the equal outputs. Now we are creating, for example, we are mixing 4 Bitcoins with 2 people, but with only 2 anonymity set, and that still goes as 4. Actually, I'm wrong about it, because if we create, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, actually, yes, that number is quite correct. If we create with 50 people 0.1 Bitcoins, then that's going to be 5 Bitcoin in that number, right? But if we mix only with 2 people 8 Bitcoin, then that's going to be 16 Bitcoin in that. So yeah, the number is correct. Yeah.
Fantastic, and definitely just this shows, just as even as a rough estimate, how powerful the growth of Wasabi was. Really seeing this grow here from just the first couple satoshis here on mainnet a couple months ago, and now several thousand Bitcoin, which is fantastic. So Lucas, what do you think about the growth of Wasabi wallet and how it was you're working on it for a couple weeks or months?
Okay, I think there is 2 parts on this story. The first one with equal mixing equal outputs, and the new one with unequal outputs. It changed everything. I mean, now there is an acceleration on the amount of the money we are mixing that, yes, it's frightening in some ways, because we are pushing a lot of limits now. There are limits on the concurrency. There are limits on the Bitcoin node, the Bitcoin network, yeah, the Bitcoin core nodes. Also have some restrictions, and we are. I think we sooner or later we will hit with that. So we have to be prepared. But well, this is, I'm surprised. I'm shocked with the results, and I'm very, very, very happy.
This is why no Lightning Network in 2 weeks.
Let's see where Wasabi Wallet ends up in the next 2 weeks, because a bunch of stuff has happened in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, let's see that. Nopara, you tweeted that out. It was just a couple days ago here, January 12th. And as Nicholas said, it's unfairly productive. And even here further, a nice little picture from 402 payment required, which he now just finished his 6th video here on Wasabi Wallet, which is amazing. And he says, this son of a bitch coasts faster than you can talk. And absolutely, you have made us obsolete here. With this new update, because there's just so much new things coming in. So let's jump in from the release notes here. We have a really good companion Medium article. And first of all, let's discuss a bit why this is a hard fork, why this specific software upgrade is a rather a big one, and why exactly is this here connected to the backend and to the client itself. And Nopara, why is this a hard fork?
So hard fork is not the right terminology. It's just a breaking change. However, we call it hard fork because that's what Bitcoin people are familiar with, and they can grasp the significance of this right away, right? If someone tells you it's a hard fork, which is kind of correct, which means everyone has to update the same time, then you're going to realize that this something is significant. This is why we call it a hard fork. This is something when everyone has to update at the same time, because the protocol won't be compatible with each other, what's running on the coordinator and what's running on the clients. This is very interesting in privacy, because a lot of the times we could just add other requests to the coordinator, but we are writing privacy software here, so we cannot just add brainlessly other requests, because then one part of the network would communicate on one side and the other part would communicate on the old requests, and with that we would be able to de-anonymize. So sometimes we must make a complete break, so no one would communicate on different things and we wouldn't be able to de-anonymize. This is why it's interesting from a privacy point of view.
Okay, and is there any issue with, or a potential issue when the clients do not upgrade? So what would happen here if some users do not upgrade their software?
It's a red status bar breaking change. What does this mean? This means that you cannot do anything with the software. Well, there are a couple of things that you can do, because you are also connected to Bitcoin Core nodes with Wasabi. So, for example, you get mempool transactions, you can generate addresses, you can generate new wallets, but you cannot CoinJoin, for example. So limited what you can do with it. But that big red thing, I think, is motivating enough to upgrade. But yeah, we shouldn't do this too often. We only did it once, and I kind of hope we'll have to do it only one more time, except if it's a security issue, right? Because then we have no choice.
That's very nice. And it's good to remember that this is a different code than a Bitcoin Core, right? This is not a monetary consensus network hard fork. This is quote unquote just a wallet hard fork. And nevertheless, though, you should stay up to date, right? There are some really good changes. So peers, upgrade your client as soon as possible. Lucas, can we maybe know how many peers have already upgraded, and if there are a large number of peers who may not yet have done the upgrade? Do we have some statistics on that?
We can see how many people downloaded the client, yes, the installer, from the GitHub stats page. But I didn't check it.
Yeah, I didn't check it either. And actually, we don't actually track anything except the mixes. But since we are upgrading it to GitHub and other sites can query the GitHub API, there is a site that's called Somsupra. Okay, somsupra.com, and you can write it in ZK Snacks Wallet Wasabi, and it's going to tell you that 1,382 people downloaded the 1.1.0 release. So that's your answer there. 1,382.
Awesome. That is good to know. Quite many peers. So clearly, guys and girls, get the Wasabi wallet, the newest release, version 1.1. And upgrade as soon as possible to get all these really cool benefits. And now let's talk about them. One of the really good ones and buzzworthy to the max, we have now Schnorr blind signatures, replacing the Chaumian blind signatures that were previously used. So now this is, we have to call this a Schnorrian CoinJoin and no longer a Chaumian CoinJoin. So Adam, how, or probably Lucas, you've implemented this here previously also in Bitcoin. Maybe the question first to you. How does Wasabi Wallet now use Schnorr blind signatures after this new update?
Well, basically it works in the same way that before, but now with that we were able to remove the bouncy castle library. That is a third-party library that you have to be all the time auditing and reviewing the change and being sure that there are no weird things going on there. So for us it's much better because we reduce the possibility or the probability of hacking or things like that. So basically that's for me the most important part.
Okay, that is very nice. And are there any efficiency gains because of the aggregation part?
Yes. No for the aggregation, because this is the Schnorr blinding signatures. It's not the Schnorr signature that will be introduced in the Bitcoin protocol. But yes, these signatures are faster, much faster than the RSA signatures, and the initialization part is even faster. Yes.
I think even smaller too, right? Small.
Oh, sure, it's smaller too. Yes, you're right.
So what's the other thing is interesting about it is that well, Bitcoin is already relying on elliptic curve cryptography. So we were using RSA cryptography too with the Chaumian thing, and now with the Schnorr binding signatures, we are just using one kind of cryptography. So basically, we are using the exact same thing what Bitcoin is using, which is it's quite comforting, you know. I don't know what happened, or I have no idea if back then 2 years ago I implemented the Schnorr blinding signature in the right way or not, but I know that in Bitcoin it was implemented in the right way, and millions of people were, well, thousands of developers were looking at the key generation and these parts. So that's another thing there. It's a security update. What might be interesting is that Nick Jonas's presentation in the Building Bitcoin, he was talking about some interesting things that we can do with Schnorr, what we are not doing right now, but well, at least we have that in our toolbox, right? Because now we are using Schnorr blinding.
Oh yes, fantastic. And of course, Schnorr is very, very useful, both on chain for many cool stuff, especially with key aggregation and other efficiencies gains. But of course, also for regular stuff. Schnorr signatures are just very intuitive and very, very useful for efficient signing and verification. But do you think that your work on top of the Bitcoin layer with Schnorr signatures might advance the implementation of Schnorr signatures on a base layer in the protocol? Do you think that your implementation will work, will advance?
I don't think so. It's no, it's not how it works. I mean, well, we can say that we have Schnorr in N Bitcoin, right? So a Bitcoin library already supports Schnorr, which is good. I don't know. No, I wouldn't speculate on this has any effect on core developers, right, Lucas?
Yes, now in core development, but we have implemented Schnorr signatures and aggregation, signature aggregations and Bitcoin. So once we have that implemented in core, we can start making our proof of concepts because we are ready. So if we find a way to improve the or take advantage of that in Wasabi, well, we are ready for that. So I think we are good.
Okay, fantastic. And a couple of weeks ago, I met with Jonas Schnelli and also Peter Woolley, and we discussed here this change of adding the Schnorr signatures into Wasabi. And they had one concern that the blinding, that blinding with Schnorr signatures is actually not cryptographically proven as secure yet. I'm not claiming that I understand this exactly where their claim is here, but do you know that of any papers here that there is not yet enough research on blind Schnorr signatures?
Yes, we talked with Nick Jonas, and he shared with us attack what you can do if you acquire many signatures, then you can get back the private key from, well, you will have more chance to break the private key if you acquire many signatures. But the other change what we did here was that in every round, for every denomination, we have new signatures, so new private key. In fact, now we don't even give out the signature, the blinded signature, in registration phase, only in connection confirmation phase, right? So they will have like, well, for one, they cannot accumulate more than, I don't know, 50 signatures or something like that. And even with that, they will have around half a minute to break it. So it's not an issue here. And even if they break it, then what happens? Well, they DOSed, they denial of service attacked one round. Like, you know what I mean? So yes, there is this attack vector on Schnorr blinding signatures, but it's not in Wasabi.
Yes, so that's what Adam says is true. The point is, in the worst case, what an attacker can do is just to it's a DOS attack for one round, and it is not something for free. You cannot attack Wasabi for free. Yes, it has a cost. So that private key is the blind signature private key. So it's not something that affect the user money or anything like that. So it's very well mitigated.
So this, I'm not sure if it's not free because they disrupt the round, so transaction is not going to happen. Also, I'm not sure if I remember well, but I think what they achieve is not only DOS attack, but if they are fast enough, they can blame on another user that they were the malicious guys, so the other user is going to get banned. But anyway, that's really as far as the very worst case scenario goes. And the other thing is how Nick Jonas mitigated this issue was back then is to just shorten the time how they can acquire signatures, right? And here in Wasabi, the time is like 30 minutes. You can break Schnorr blinding. You have 30 seconds to break Schnorr blinding, and you cannot even acquire, you cannot acquire many signatures, right? Because you would have to have a bunch of UTXOs, and but even that, it was in the thousands, not under 100. What Nick was talking about. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, and we have to be aware of that, and we are. So that's how we design the things.
Yes, only one thing. Basically, the mitigation is because an attacker needs to have to interact with the signer and request as many signatures as possible. And the mitigation was exactly that. I mean, we are reducing the interaction with the signer, so you cannot request enough information to be able to break that.
Okay, very nice. So that is one of the big major features now in Wasabi. And no longer Chaumian blind signatures, but Schnorr blind signatures. Much more efficient, cutting edge, and the latest buzzword. So that's always a good plus. And there might be some fringe case cryptographical issues, but they are accounted for. And of course, it's always good to get the peer review here. And Jonas Nick, he really knows his stuff. So good to listen to him. And he's done some phenomenal work on the side chains and Lightning and Schnorr. So great work from him with Blockstream. But one of the next really cool features is a new signing key for every new round. So this is the key that you generate for then, or well, Adam, I'll just let you explain that. What exactly is that key? What was it before, and how is it being changed now with this upgrade?
Before we had one RSA key, and with that RSA key we did everything. Now we have as many mixing levels, so we have like 10 ECDSA keys per round. So we just have a bunch of keys, and what this enables us to sign multiple denominations, to give up. If you register 8 Bitcoins, then I'm going to give you one signature from the lowest denomination key. I'm going to give you another signature with another key for the 2 Bitcoin. And then a 4 Bitcoin denomination, I'm going to give you another public key too. So it's a this is basically an enabling feature. The multiple denominations are the ones what this enables, but there is another thing which I didn't even write it in the post because I didn't even think we are going to implement it. It just Gergely and Balint were so pushy that, hey, implement it. So I implemented it, and it turned out great. What I'm talking about is when a round fails, then the anonymity set goes down, and another round gets kicked off. Now, with this new signing key all the time, in connection confirmation, we can just progress towards output registration without have to fail the round and start over again, because in connection, because we give out the key at the end of connection confirmation. So if they don't have key yet, that's good, because we just give out to those people who have, and we progress forward with the round. So that's a huge efficiency increase, and this is a huge DOS protection, right? Because now you need many more outputs in order to DOS around, because a round is always enforced. So yeah, that's it. It's nice. So this new signing key every round, this is an enabling feature.
What are your thoughts on it, Lucas?
No, I think that's all.
Okay. Well, one thing I'm still a bit curious for is the changes to the denial of service protection. Okay, because what I do see a lot in the chat, specifically in the Telegram chat, I haven't personally experienced it, is that individual UTXOs will get banned as a denial of service measurement. So might this new signing key ceremony help in that regard?
No, this is how it always worked. What happens in it is that a round is always going to run to the end. If once a round is triggered, then the anonymity set goes down every time an Alice disrupts a round, but the round is going to go down. It's not like okay, well, an Alice is off, then let's wait for another Alice. That's the only thing that might be connected to the denial of service protection. We weren't banning by IPs because we don't know their IPs, right? It's Tor. They have every IPs. They have and it's like 11 different Tor circuits per round per people. So that's that's not something we can do there. What we can do there is to only ban the inputs, because those are the, well, the only thing what we can ban. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So both here the new signing key for every round and the Schnorr blind signatures, a huge efficiency gains for the Wasabi wallet, and mainly in the back end, mainly in the non-user experience side. But here something that really is upfront and very important is the major change here, and that is the unequal input mixing extension. So previously, we had the case where in every CoinJoin round, in every huge transaction being generated, you take in a bunch of different valued input UTXOs and you generate the then Chaumian CoinJoin outputs, which are all exactly 0.1 Bitcoin, round about that. And you create 41 or 45 of these 0.1 UTXO value UTXOs, plus a bunch of change output. And all that change output would be tied directly to one specific input in that transaction. But now with unequal input mixing, we could have many different UTXO levels being created. So when we check out here one of the recently happened transactions, we have a bunch of random value inputs being put in. So these are all identifiable and have or might not have an anonymity set at all. And then it generates several 0.1 Bitcoin inputs, or sorry, output values. And you even have to load here for more because the anonymity set is so high. But eventually, oh God, such a high anonymity set. Here you see the 0.2 output being generated. And that has some more, even again, very high anonymity set. And here is the 0.4 Bitcoin output generated. So here there are the different values being generated here now with the Schnorr blind signature, multiple value output. Adam, why is this a big deal? What is going on here?
So I think your explanation was pretty good already. One thing I would note that this do not be confused with the unequal input mixing research, because that solves a lot more things. It's just a huge research. This is just a small extension that we realized, hey, if we add on top of 0.1 Bitcoin mixing level, another mixing level, and another one, then it's pretty straightforward how to implement it and add this well, small but for reaching with huge benefits, a small extension with huge benefits. So it was what would you say, low-hanging fruit, right? Well, and now we can, the significance of that, you might ask, that this is that from now on you can mix many Bitcoins. If you have 100 Bitcoin, you don't have to wait 1,000 rounds, right, to mix that 100 Bitcoin. You can mix it in much smaller amount of rounds. In fact, now these people are remixing too, and remixing are much more valuable than simple mixing. But let's not go into that. It's awesome, and I'm really happy we were able to implement it with such a small, non-intrusive way. But in the long term, we want to do the unequal input mixing research properly, assuming we don't have confidential transactions, which would just solve everything what we are talking about. But anyway.
Yeah, confidential transaction is like cheating. It solves everything. That's boring. Lucas, where do you see the major changes here between the old style of having only one value of outputs being generated to now several different output values being generated? Why is this important in your opinion?
Well, first of all, the we were looking for ways to achieve a bigger liquidity and even more anonymity sets, and we tried several things. I personally tried with Snapsack. Adam before that was making his research, but one day, um, one of the developers, uh, Molnar, yes, uh, restarted the brainstorming with an idea, and I didn't understood him. So I asked, well, how can we create those more efficient CoinJoin transactions without knowing the links between the inputs and the outputs? And Adam said, I know how. And, and that's it. That was the idea. Uh, he implemented, and now we can mix much faster. And those who want to mix, I don't know, 20, 100 bitcoins can do it, uh, well, rather fast. Yes, and you can remix those coins and have perfect mixing again. So I think it's a huge step forward for us.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I would agree there. And both from a time efficiency, but also even more important, a block space efficiency, right? Imagine if you have 10 Bitcoins to CoinJoin, or let's say just 0.8 Bitcoins to CoinJoin. With the old single value output mixing, you would end up with 8 several CoinJoin rounds where you'd all the time generate both the CoinJoin output and a change output, and ultimately you end up with 10 plus the change output. So 10 Chaumian CoinJoins outputs plus the change output. Or sorry, 8 when we make 0.8 Bitcoin. But here with the new scheme, we could simply get a 0.4 value UTXO. We could get a 0.2 value UTXO and another 0.2, or maybe two 0.1. So we could get only 3 or maybe even only 2 UTXO outputs, because we can afford these different higher anonymity sets or higher values that can achieve their own anonymity set within the same CoinJoin transaction. So that is much more anonymity set in less block space and in less UTXOs, because we shouldn't load the UTXO database.
Would you mind to think about something live here? Because there is something that's just occurred me like a couple of days ago, and kind of makes me feel a complete moron that why didn't I think about it? Right now, what we are doing here is what we said, what we are saying basically is that, hey, if you have 8 Bitcoin, then you're intending to mix that 8 Bitcoin anyway. So what we were doing is that we divided the 8 Bitcoin in 80 transactions, 80 mixing rounds into 0.1 Bitcoins. But what we did and what we might can do, what I'm thinking about right now is that why don't we just divide that 8 Bitcoin to 0.1 Bitcoin outputs in the first place, in the first mixing round, right? And my old answer would be because that 8 Bitcoin guy doesn't get any anonymity, because all the Bitcoins in the outputs is that from that 8 Bitcoin guys, except for 2 or 3 or something like that. Can you follow me so far?
Yes, but I think that idea was already discussed, Adam, in some of our developer meetings. we had the idea to split in several 0.1 outputs, but we didn't
But
do
we
it. I
said
don't remember why.
because the 8 Bitcoin guy wouldn't gain any anonymity. That's why we
Yeah.
did it. We didn't do it. But imagine what happens with the other people who are mixing with the 8 Bitcoin guys. They are gaining much more anonymity. And then the 8 Bitcoin guys are remixing the 0.1 Bitcoins. So he's going to gain the many anonymity later on because he will. That's my idea. It's I think it makes sense. But anyway, we are definitely not going to build it anytime soon. It's just something to think about, right?
What are you saying? It's done in 2 weeks. Come on. So it would basically mean that when you have one large UTXO, you would first break it down into small 0.1 value UTXOs, many of them, and then in subsequent rounds, combine these 0.1 UTXOs into higher value UTXOs. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so 8 Bitcoin, that's 800 0.1 Bitcoin UTXOs. So if I am the 8 Bitcoin guy and Umax is just a 0.1 Bitcoin guy, then I'm not going to gain any anonymity with that, but you're going to gain like 800 anonymity set, right? It's assuming I am later queuing the 8 Bitcoin stuff. I'm not quite sure this is how it works, but let's move on because I just wanted to throw it out there.
Okay, and why are these values specifically chosen at 0.1, 0.2, 0.4, 0.8, 1.6, 3.2, and why is this exponential increase? Did you put some thought into that?
Yes, it's basically if those values would be done in the same way as the 0.1 mixing denominations, then you would end up with a lot of small changes. In this way, when you are remixing, at the end of the transaction mixing chain, you're not going to end up with more change than you would otherwise end up. I don't see you guys understood it. Okay, the point is that it must be a multiplication of the base denomination because later when you are remixing, then you are not going to end up with a bunch of change that you wouldn't be able to use for anything just to de-anonymize yourself.
Yes, exactly. This is part of a reason why, with further coin selection and with several rounds, concurrent rounds of CoinJoins, and you might also realize that although this here is written as 0.1, 0.2, 0.4, with a real transaction, we will have a rather random looking Satoshi amount here. So it is roughly that amount. And why is that? Well, that is first and foremost because you want to have remixed transactions. So for example, there are here some input value UTXOs, like this one here, 0.098105. That is most likely one of the, or this one here, 0.0991. This is one of the previous rounds. So this already has some anonymity set. And with this CoinJoin, it's going to gain even further anonymity set. But the output value here will, of course, be below the input value. So my question would be to both of you, why is, or how is specifically this Satoshi amount chosen? Is that just the lowest input here, or how is that being traded off with the fees of the previous rounds?
So we had an issue we had 0.1 Bitcoin fixed denominations at when we started this. What this resulted, that someone mixed, they get 0.1 Bitcoin, but then they couldn't queue that into the next mix because they would have need to pay fees on top of that, but they didn't have enough money to pay that few Satoshi fees. So now what we figured out is to lower the denomination in every round, just a few Satoshis, just enough to cover the fees of the active output, of the current active output, still be able to register to the next round. So this is why it is so ugly, but I mean it's necessary. Otherwise, you would have to join together inputs if you would want to remix.
Okay, very interesting, and it makes sense. Plus, really cool that we still see this is only a ridiculously low fee of 2.2 satoshis per byte. So, how do you manage to then still have such a low fee when you kind of have to eyeball it, right? Or is the calculation process rather precise even before the round is being constructed? Because you don't know which inputs are being registered, right? Before.
Now this is interesting, that fee. So what we are doing is we are estimating that how much it will cost to use one input and how much it will cost to use one output, and depending on how much inputs and outputs Alice is using. Anyway, this fee estimation would be 144 block target, which is 1 day. So every CoinJoin transaction should confirm in 24 hours, which why we are saying this fee is because we have a sanity limit in case, and this is the sanity limit that so we didn't hit yet the real block target. What we are, it's gonna be interesting that when the fees go up, then CoinJoins are going to confirm in about 24 hours. And will that be okay for our users? Because some people were already complaining when the fees were going a little bit up that, oh no, it's taking too long. Oh no, oh no, we are paying so too much. So, like I don't know what to do in this. I feel like 1 day is kind of a good compromise. Yes, we'll see.
Your thoughts on this, Lucas?
Yes, that we haven't seen an increase on the network fees. So if that happens, we will have the opportunity to see how Wasabi CoinJoins transaction behaves, because one of those limits that I was talking about at the beginning is that the amount of or the size of the tree of transactions that can be stored in the mempool, and we didn't suffer, or we didn't reach that limitation now. But if transaction fees go up a lot, well, probably we will see it. I don't know. I, uh,
Okay, and also the zero link framework, right, where these coin joins are being based upon, was written here together with some of the Samurai developers, and they are also working on a implementation of this in the Whirlpool. And I asked here in the Telegram chat if Samurai is thinking on integrating the unequal output or unequal input mixing. And the reply here from TEDDev is that they want to simultaneously denominate the pools to max the entropy of mixes for the number of inputs and outputs, and never two or more of the same previous transactions in the same mix, and an equal amount CoinJoin spent post-mix if the user chooses. So it sounds like they decided to not have different denominations in one transaction. What do you think to this approach? And is it different? Is it similar to Wasabi?
Adam?
I'm not quite sure I understand. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't understand the approach.
Okay, maybe that then needs a bit further inquiry and more detailed discussion on how to handle this. And you said that this current implementation is kind of the bare bones version, and that there are a couple of cool things that you could add to the scheme. What are some of the new things that you can work on here specifically for the unequal input mixing?
Sending direct transactions with CoinJoins. Right now, if you look at it, the outputs are the mixes. Those are equal. But if you look at it more closely, which was an unintended consequence, I didn't anticipate that, but very often the inputs are equal. In fact, it's like over 50% of the mix, the inputs are equal, because previously that's how we divided. So what can we do if the inputs are equal? We mix with the inputs. We can add arbitrary amounts to the CoinJoins. And this seems like quite a simple change too.
Okay, but then spending with a CoinJoin would also mean that liquidity needs to be rather fast. So, Lucas, how do you think how can these spending CoinJoins be used for regular transactions as well to other users, not just yourself?
Well, in fact, if we implement this will be indistinguishable. Sorry, you will not be able to say, hey, this is a send and this is just a mix. So it increases the liquidity, yes, and also it has a lot of good points or selling points. For example, I think if the Bitcoin price goes up again fast and the Bitcoin fees and the network fees go up, we will be able to provide not just private cents, but also cheaper transactions. Yes, all in the same package for the same price. So I think it is a very, very good idea. Just compare this solution with others like pay to endpoint, for example. With pay to endpoint, you are conjoining with someone else. Here you will be conjoining with, I don't know, 60 other people. Yes, and the cost of the transaction will be just a small part of that. So I think it's promising, very promising.
So how I imagine, it might worth pointing out how it would look like from a user's perspective. The user would first send the money to Wasabi and do the exact same thing, start mixing until its mixing outputs would be 0.1 BTC each. So the user would have a bunch of 0.1 BTC, and then with the exact same mix, he would be able to do a patient send, a reverse CoinJoin send, by using a couple of 0.1 Bitcoin outputs and consolidating multiple UTXOs this way is not an issue anymore because you are also mixing while consolidating. So that's interesting. So you could use the CoinJoins. Of course, it wouldn't happen instantly, except if the CoinJoin runs are so fast. But I would argue that won't be the case. Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe it would happen in every 10 minutes or something like that. But the point is, you would let it run, and eventually your desired transaction would happen. It would be a patient send. It wouldn't be instant, but that's fine. I mean, you could never send such a transaction with such a high anonymity set. Yeah, it's I think it's awesome. I don't know when we will have time to start working on it, but we'll see.
2 weeks, clearly, then we have it.
As usual.
So with pay to endpoint, right, that was discussed here back in August 2018 by Matthew Hayward, and also some other implementations and other peers working on it, of course. And the basic concept is that you communicate so that when Alice wants to send some Satoshis to Bob, then they can communicate, and Alice can sign a valid transaction where she has the only single output or input, and sends one output to Bob and the change output back to Alice herself. And she can send that transaction only to Bob, but not yet broadcast it to the network. Plus, she can also give the option and tell Bob that she would like to do a pay to endpoint transaction. And then Bob can commit some of his own inputs and add them to Alice's transaction, and also put, of course, then change some of the output that Alice is sending to Bob. He can now increase with the amount that is of his own input. And in that way, you have kind of a mini CoinJoin with the two people coming together at the point of sale, so to speak, at every payment, where you just have some consolidation of change outputs and old outputs combined with the CoinJoin aspect here. So would that then mean that what you're thinking here in terms of Wasabi would be different in a sense that you would just have the regular Wasabi zero link Schnorr signature CoinJoin type, but you dedicate a CoinJoin output address of a specific merchant who you want to send money to, or how would you handle that?
So I'd like to clear up a couple of things, because this pay to endpoint is worked on and tinkered on so many people, and it kind of means different things. But first, what was pay to endpoint? In Bitcoin 0.1 Satoshi 2009, he released 0.1, and this was one of the way to send other people, hey Max, give me your IP address and I send you Bitcoin. So this was one of the way, and then over time they took this out of the protocol, because, well, if you are sending to IP addresses, then that might be a security issue, right? So this was the original pay to endpoint. And then Samurai Wallet was talking about this concept in their internal emails, or so they say. This was about 2018, and later then there was a meetup. Well, and Samurai is coming with the, well, probably pay to endpoint thing. How do they call it?
Stowaway.
Stowaway. Yes, that's it. And which is pay to endpoints, sender receiver shame, categorically speaking. What is that? What's the story behind it? It's a Blockstream organized workshop. Of course, Samurai figured it out before that, but didn't tell it to us, so we had to invent it in parallel later. Blockstream organized the workshop with a bunch of smart people like Adam Gibson from Join Market. Adam Beck was right, and he was brainstorming with us. It was really interesting. Anyway, the point is that we came up with this pay-to-end point, which was basically the same what Satoshi did, but we wanted to do it in a way, at least I wanted to do it in a way, in a very idealistic way, that if I give you a Bitcoin address, then your wallet in the background would decide, hey, is this Bitcoin address an endpoint or just a Bitcoin address? If this is an endpoint, then a communication would start between you and the sender, and then you would negotiate how I can send you money based on that thing, and this wouldn't change anything. But of course, you have to build your own anonymity network for this. So no one really implemented it this way. So then something Basta Pay.
Yes, Basta
Came up
Pay.
with this, I believe, quite simplified solution where he added to his online store this thing, and well, it would actually be nice if people would join to it. Well, I don't really like it because my vision is to give a Bitcoin address, and the wallet would automatically decide if that's an endpoint or a Bitcoin address to send. Anyway, so he came up with this. You can connect to his store and negotiate your transactions. And now Adam Gibson with Join Market is building PayJoin, which is well, very similar. I didn't quite look into this, but I think it's pay to endpoints. Sender receiver shame. Now this is where everything gets a bit fuzzy, right? Everyone calls it pay to endpoint, but pay to endpoint is basically, the notion is that you, the sender, and the receiver just builds out a connection in some way or another, so you can negotiate the transaction. You can negotiate the transaction where I said, oh, I can do this transaction from 4 UTXO, and Lucas there only gives me on the background, the wallet software gives me 4 Bitcoin addresses, so I achieve merge avoidance with that. Or I could send to other people with, hey, I establish a connection with Lucas, and I send with Lucas a joint transaction to Max in a way that Lucas doesn't lose any of his money. He's just participating. So this is another pay-to-endpoint shame. And the pay-to-endpoint shame that everyone's talk about is the sender-receiver shame, where the scheme where when the receiver participates in the transaction. Why this is interesting is because if the receiver participates with his UTXO in the transaction, then he's consolidating UTXO in that transaction where he receives, which is quite interesting in a way that no privacy scheme consolidates UTXOs. So that's quite good on the one hand, and on the other hand, this looks like a regular Bitcoin transaction. It just, if blockchain analysis is not prepared for this, then blockchain analysis will think this is just a regular Bitcoin transaction and will misinterpret it. If blockchain analysis prepares for this, then the blockchain analysis will think, oh, this transaction has 3 interpretations, So I must be very, very careful that if I go with one or go with percentage or however they work, right, the software. So the point is everyone is implementing this sender receiver scheme, but it's actually much more than that. Yeah. And in Wasabi, we were thinking of implementing it, but now we are just thinking, well, if we can send with the mixing, then do we really need it? Like it's just so much. It's the heavy guns, right? The mixing is the heavy gun. Do we really need this small thing here? I don't know. We'll see.
I want to comment about this. Well, first of all, yes, there are many people working on peer-to-endpoint with differences, but basically what I think they have in common is that you have to, it is an interactive protocol that you have to share information with other parties. For example, you have to share your UTXO to someone else. Sometimes you trust on that person, sometimes you don't. For example, BastaPay is, I think, was done for merchant in mind, and so you are sharing information with a merchant. Just imagine if Amazon implements that, we are all in risk. So that's why I don't like that. Yes. On the other hand, if we implement this pay to CoinJoin, I don't know how to call it, but with the Wasabi CoinJoin mechanism, it is not interactive. You don't have to share information with anyone. Yes, you don't have to wait that someone else sign the signature or something like that. You just go open the Wasabi, put the address, the amount, press send, and wait, and that's all. And you have a very, very high anonymity set. So that's why I would love to see this. I mean, we have this CoinJoin, the heavy gun that Adam says, and it is a platform to build things on top of that for bringing more privacy to the community. So that's why I'm so I don't know, like obsessed with that idea. I think it's great.
Yes, so what Lucas was talking about is that in this sender-receiver pay-to-endpoint scheme, you have to, if you are a receiver, you have to expose one of your UTXO to the sender, which can be problematic. I would say that if you receive money from someone, then you would usually trust them, so it wouldn't be an issue 99% of the time. You wouldn't share your UTXO with a blockchain analysis company or something like that. But yeah, it can be problematic. We are yet to see, I think. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, this is all very cutting edge and very new financial technology and financial self-defense tools, right? So this is really some cutting edge research, and of course also some great articles here. Read the Pay to Endpoint article by Nopara from last year, which goes into all this in quite some depth. So it's a good read, of course. And yes, stay educated. All this is happening here, and there are these tools out there. We just need to build them. We need to improve them. So to conclude, maybe what the Wasabi new version 1.1 release all does is will mix larger amounts with Wasabi faster and cheaper. So you can mix larger coins. It will be done faster because you will because liquidity is also picking up further and further, and that is just further enhanced with unequal input mixing. And then, of course, also in block space, right? We no longer, quote unquote, waste the UTXO set and bloat it up with several small value UTXOs. And it's much easier for managing. If you want to mix, like, let's say a 100 Bitcoin UTXO, much easier to manage less UTXOs afterwards and still get all this anonymity set. So pretty much, Adam, what would you say? It's quite a good upgrade. So looking back to it, this is quite huge.
Yes. Well, how is it a block space increase? Because block space sparing thing, it's a block space sparing thing. While it would seem like it creates a lot more UTXO than the previous scheme was creating, but you are creating this lot more UTXO with anonymity, right? So it's sparing the block space compared to how much anonymity set you gain for, let's say, 1 Bitcoin anonymization. It creates a lot more UTXO because it's just faster. It's just doing that faster. It anonymizes it faster. So yeah, that's about it. Also, I'm surprised you didn't mention my comment there on confidential transactions, because I want to come clear on this. So what I said is, finally, it is also worth mentioning that that we would not need any of this shit if Bitcoin would have confidential transactions or some kind of amount binding. So this is something what people just keep quoting me on, and I'm just putting this out there a bit carelessly, you know, like confidential transactions wouldn't have any problems or side effects. I just it's a great punchline because it's true that, but let's be aware that it has problems too. So it's not like I would be 100% for confidential transactions, maybe 95, but I'm aware that it's not perfect.
No, Adam. A confidential transaction is perfect. It is the holy grail. It is the truest of all Satoshi's visions. It will solve all our problems. Bitcoin will be super fungible and nothing to worry about. If only it would be that easy.
No, but you also have to are risking to remove the 21 million Bitcoin cap. So it is not something that you can put in risk. I don't know if we want to see confidential transactions. I personally don't want to see that, but who knows?
Actually, even for that, even for removing the, well, we wouldn't remove the limit, right? It's in that unlikely scenario, maybe we would risk silent inflation if confidential transactions would be broken, or if there is a fatal flaw in the implementation, and we would not be able to notice. But actually we would, because there is a way to add confidential transactions in a way to not mess with the money supply. It guaranteed 100%. But another thing that Shinobi Monkey told me, I quite didn't see any solution for that, was the UTXO bloating, right? In confidential transactions, you can create very, very small UTXOs, and the Bitcoin dust limit wouldn't make sense because these amounts are confidential. So where is your dust per se? So it's well, I'm not sure how to fix the UTXO bloating issue there.
Okay, yes. Well, confidential transactions. Maybe we'll get them. They'll be here in 2 weeks, together with all the other upgrades. So yeah, let's see. We have here Gil Baudo saying that this conversation is so speculative. Then let's shut up and let's the code speak for itself. Because as we said, this is already up and running. So right here, this is the client updated on version 1.1. You can simply go on the Wasabi. You can simply go on the Wasabi website and download here the packages for your operating system and the signatures. Make sure to double check the signature, and you should be running over Tor, of course. And then simply in the command line on Linux, it is the change in the directory with the latest version here, and then run the amazing Wasabi command, and you got you're already up to date and running. And then the major change here is in the CoinJoin tab. So we have all the coins here on testnet in the upper box, and we can select them all or select them for privacy and everything. And here on the left side, we have the password box. And this is a phenomenal little feature, probably the most exciting of them all. Because when I type in my password, look at that. Oh, weird Chinese characters. It's magic. I do not know. I'm a stupid foreigner who does not know what he's saying here. Nopara, what's up with this password box?
It's the most important feature. If programmers cannot have fun while programming, then what would be the motivation to work so hard, right? Sometimes you have to do something for fun, otherwise it would just be boring. Stop chatting.
Well, but the chat is so interactive. Would be so nice. Adrian asks, why does Wasabi Wallet support Back32? Well, why wouldn't you want to save on block space and have transaction malleability? Segwit is magic, so why not use it?
So it wasn't an ideological decision per se. It was it's because the neutrino client-side filtering stuff is just not as light as we would like you to believe. That's one reason. I will get back to it. Why? The problem is that we had to do SegWit. That's for sure, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to join a unconfirmed CoinJoin output to another next CoinJoin. So we just had to use SegWit because of this malleability fix. That's one. So we would have the option of using the pay to script hash, pay to whatever things. Okay, the wrapped SegWit, what other wallets are using, or we can use Batch32. Now, at that time, we didn't know that you can extract the public key from the wrap SegWit thingy. Well, you still cannot. You still can only hack around that. But anyway, we didn't know there was a hack around. So we just opted to use Batch32 only. And with that, we also had another great advantage, that our wallet become much lighter, because Bitcoin Core doesn't support neutrino filters yet. It didn't support back then and don't support even today. So we had to build our own. We had to serve the filters by ourselves, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to build the light wallet or use the scheme. And And if we only use batch 32 addresses, then that means we have much smaller filters than we would otherwise have, which is great, because otherwise you would have to download gigabytes of data as filters, and now you have to download around 100 megabytes, and yeah, with batch 32 only filters. So it's complex, but it made sense in a not ideological, from a not ideological point of view.
Yes. 50 megabytes soon instead of 100.
Oh yes. Again, I mean, SegWit is overall good magic, and save on fees, fixed transaction malleability. It just makes sense. So that is why SegWit.
Yes, it's also cheaper, and we can build larger CoinJoins with it. So that's nice too. The obvious benefits, of course.
Win, 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 win. And so a further change that we see here is that we now can select a target for the anonymity set. So currently, when I select, for example, here a UTXO that I bought on BISC and then type in my password, I could select the anonymity set of 50, and the UTXO would recurrently enter new rounds of CoinJoins until the anonymity set is hit. If I say, okay, 50 is too much, I could also change that down to 2. So it would do recurring CoinJoins automatically until I reach the set of 2, or it could be 21. So 2, 21, and 50 are the 3 target anonymity sets that you can choose. And why, or is 50 enough, so to say, or why are these different anonymity set types now selectively targetable?
The honest answer is that we don't know. So how were these decided? For one, this had to be decided. The other thing is that I just sent out a bunch of emails to I don't know, join market creators, coin shuffle creators, some Zcash guy. I just sent out a bunch of emails that what the heck do they think of the anonymity set? What should be enough? And it seemed like there is a rough consensus around 50. So we just went with that should be enough to cover most threat models. Yeah, but there is we don't know. We really don't know. It's there is no research on that. It's intuition, right? You have to do the best job that you can, and we do that.
And would it be better to get a anonymity set of 50 in one transaction, or a anonymity set of 50 in 2 transactions with each an anonymity set of 25?
Could you repeat it?
So is it better to have one transaction, one CoinJoin round, that generates a vast amount of anonymity sets, or have the same level or same amount of anonymity set, but spread out across several transactions? Is there a difference?
Are you asking me about remixing?
Yes.
Yes, there is a difference, because the anonymity set, what we show you on the UI, is kind of flawed. It's flawed. Well, it may be 90% accurate, so it gives you a good idea. But remixing is much more valuable, because if you have a coin and you mix it with 2 people, then you have 2 anonymity sets, right? And what if you mix that coin with another 2 people? Then the anonymity set concept starts to break down a little bit. What happens here is that what are the chances that this starting coin what became actually this coin? So, well, it's 50% and then another 50%. So 25%. But if you are using bigger numbers, like you are mixing with, I don't know, 10 people, then it's 1/10 and then 1/100th would be the chances that these coins goes to here. Now, what's the problem with this? It would be great. It just shows that remixing is very valuable. The problem with this, what we just cannot calculate in to the things yet, is that what happens when the second round has same people mixing with you than the first round. If the rounds are overlapping, right? Now, how do you calculate the anonymity set? Then it gets really confusing very, very fast, and this shows a very okay way to. It's kind of accurate. I would say, covers around 80 to 90% of the cases. It gives you a good idea, and we will try to improve and make it accurate in the future. But for now, this is what we have. It's really good. Complicated.
I have a comment on that, because what's the best, a big CoinJoin transaction or repeating? Yes, and remixing. I think both. We are trying to improve in both sides. For example, we want to have bigger CoinJoin transactions. The goal is 100 participants, because if you remix, for example, 100, you mix with 100 and then you remix with another 100, you have a pretty well a good privacy level. Yes, so I think it's both. What for a best practice, I think it is important to know that when you remix immediately, probably you are remixing with the same set of people, and that doesn't increase the anonymity set much in reality. So probably you can mix, yes, and then tomorrow, if you want, mix again, or in just wait an hour or two and mix with different people. Yes, that's something that can help too, because we don't know if we are mixing with a completely new set of participants or with a good number of the previous one. So, but anyway, both bigger conjoint transactions and remixing. I think that's the best combination, and we are working on improving both.
Yes, okay. And again, this is very cutting edge technology, and we still have to evolve this and learn and grow together and see how the best practices that we can apply here. So maybe another example. What if I have, let's say, 5 different UTXOs, each of the value of 0.1, that all have an anonymity set of 50. So all have done repeated recurring mixing and have more than 50 anonymity set, and all are roughly of 0.1 value. Is it at any case good to combine these 5 UTXOs into one UTXO output? Or is this always wrong because it links the UTXOs together?
In my opinion, if you consolidate all your coins and you have, for example, 12.3 bitcoins, a big coin of 12.3 bitcoins, you just can go down in the time and see if someone started mixing 12.3 bitcoins. So if you find it, probably we are talking about the same guy. So, in my opinion, it depends, of course, but in my opinion, consolidating all your coins used to be a bad idea. In fact, you cannot manage your coins if you have only one. Um, I mean, well, probably Adam, he knows better about these topics, but in my opinion, it's not a good idea at all.
So if there are bigger people than you who didn't consolidate their outputs, then you could theoretically consolidate your outputs without using your anonymity, because there are bigger people, so no one can figure out that, well, was it you or was just the bigger people consolidating some of his outputs. So if you only have one Bitcoin, if you came to the mix with one Bitcoin only, and then you consolidate, let's say 0.9, then that's fine, because other people came to the mix with 18 or 100 or 1 Bitcoins or something like that. So you just still you're not in danger, right? Especially with the remixing, because in the remixes are like joining together all the coin joins, so you don't even know if some consolidation happens with some UTXOs, like let's say that came in 1 month ago. For example, I have a UTXO that I have over 1,000 anonymity set on that. So that 1,000 anonymity set UTXO was nicely joining together all the CoinJoin transactions, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, if you are really like something like hiding from the NSA, then you would better not do that. That's the only way to gain mathematically provable anonymity. But if you're just a normal people and you are not consolidating too much, then go ahead. It's gonna be fine.
Okay, very good to know. So when you are only coin joining a little bit, a little amount, and with that, we're still talking about several million Satoshis, so quite a couple Satoshis, precious ones. But you can consolidate some of the UTXOs as long as you don't overdo it too much. Okay, so that's good to know. But now let's assume that, again, I have 5 UTXOs, and they are all right around anonymity set 50. A couple are below with 45, 47, then one is exactly at 50, then 52 and 53 or something. And what would then be the anonymity set of the consolidated transaction output, which combines all these 5 UTXOs? Would it be the average? Would it be the lowest? Would it be the highest?
That's an interesting point. You brought it up there, because what we are doing, we are using the lowest one. The change output is always the lowest anonymity set, and go with that. But Lucas was saying the other day, maybe we should somehow even punish that, like somehow lower even that somehow. I don't know. It's an ongoing conversation. I'm not sure I want to mess with the anonymity set what we have right now. It gives you a good idea, a very good idea. Maybe when we have to figure out some accurate anonymity set measurements somehow. We have to figure that out, and from there it is gonna be accurate. So we won't have to worry about that anymore.
Okay, Lucas, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's okay, because the only way we can help and be really useful is just becoming ourselves in a chain analysis company, and I think we won't do that So we have to educate people, I think, and probably some incentives, as for example reducing the anonymity set that we show our users when they do something that can affect their privacy. But yes, I don't know if we want to mess with that.
Okay, yes. And again, cutting edge. We're all figuring this out here together. We all pretty much don't have any clue what we're doing. Not even these wizards like Nopara and Lucas. They're pretty much just here stumbling apart in the dark and seeing where this rabbit hole leads. But I would say that it's pretty good already. Wasabi is amazing in all its aspects, and the anonymity set here is a nice, clear indicator, and actually, again, a really good mathematically proven privacy and fungibility. That is really, really nice. So we have covered quite many topics here already. Maybe as a little summary, going here again through these release notes of what was added here to the new version 0.1.1, sorry, 1.1.0. And that is, of course, that it is a hard fork. That is that both the coordinator and the client have to upgrade. Which is quite important. And now adding Schnorr blind signatures, not on the blockchain level, but actually used for blinding the output address for your now Schnorr CoinJoin. So we can no longer call it Chaumian CoinJoin. And here, linking, of course, to the phenomenal talk by Jonas here, working with Blockstream on a bunch of amazing stuff. We also have new signing key for every round. That is really good for efficiency. Again, more in the back end, a improvement, good for denial of service protection. And then the really big change here is the basic unequal input mixing being added here in a very rudimentary form with still lots of improvements. But already just this first implementation is working really, really well. Basically, the old version was that you had all outputs being generated being of the exact same value. And now you have several values in an exponential gradient here. And therefore, you can CoinJoin more Bitcoin at a faster rate, at a cheaper rate, being much more efficient, wasting less block space, but still gaining your anonymity set and your privacy. So that is fantastic. A couple really beautiful user interface changes, really intuitive. More to come, and of course, the most important update of it all, the Chinese password box. So this is a packed full. Really deserves the 1.1 almost full update here. And Nopara, do you have anything to add to all this? What do you think about this update in general? High level overview.
I think it was an unexpected update. It turned out really well.
Lucas, what are your thoughts on all this?
No, just download the wallet and try it. It is not rocket science, as some people believe that it is complicated or that you need a special ability or manual for using it. It's very intuitive. Just try it.
Oh yes, absolutely. Just try this amazing software. It really is one of these really user-friendly and user-intuitive wallets that I really like. And not just for the amazing privacy gains, but also just for the in general user interface and a good coin selection. That is just so important. And Wasabi here gives that to you, of course. Plus, then also with, and I see it's here, old version on the website. We need to fork the website here soon to add that it's now Schnorr CoinJoins. Schnorrian. We need a better name for that. Doesn't ring as nicely. And yeah, over 5,000 Bitcoin made fungible here in Wasabi. That is phenomenal. And Pierce upgrade. Here, hard fork, really important upgrade, really amazing new features. Version 1.1. And let's continue on this journey of making Bitcoin fungible again and making Bitcoin private. So yeah, follow all these both guys here on Twitter. Of course, Nopara is going to tweet out about all the amazing releases here coming, hopefully soon, 2 weeks. And then Lucas is also really a good follow, tweeting all the important stuff happening here in Wasabi and in privacy land. And of course, like and subscribe if you like the stuff here. Be active in the chat, ask the questions, and come back for the next videos. And if you like that, if you want to see more, there is also here a phenomenal Tallycoin fundraiser where you can get early access to all these videos. So including, there is some early access videos for the Wasabi wallet here. So if you want more of these educational videos on how you can use these tools to defend your financial sovereignty and privacy, then we'll come out here, throw a couple Satoshis. And fun fact, talking about privacy, you can use here on Tallycoin, since quite a long time, you can use Paynim, so reusable payment codes, which are implemented in Samurai Wallet, which we've talked about, much more private for generating a address for a public donation. So that is quite nice. Or just use Lightning Network, which is also a very nice feature and privacy feature as well. And of course, Lightning Network coming to Wasabi Wallet in just 2 weeks. So that is fantastic. Piers, it was a pleasure, as always, talking to you. And Lucas, any last words?
No, just thank you, Max. Thanks for all that you do for Wasabi.
Well, thank you for coding, and I'll just continue to babble on and talk about it. You do the heavy lifting. Nopara, any last words from you?
No, I just noticed your shows are getting really technical.
Is that good? I hope it is good. Well, for sure.
For me. I'm not sure it's for your audience.
Well, I think this information is important. And, well, it's a no bullshit zone. So, yes, it might be technical, but Piers, stick through it, accumulate this information, try to understand it. It's an internal process, but it is incredibly valuable. And these are tools that you can use and that you can acquire the skills of using these tools that really help you in your path of financial sovereignty and independence. So Wasabi Wallet, definitely worth looking into it. But the really cool thing is that you don't really need to understand all the nitty-gritty stuff. The change from Chaumian signatures, blind signatures to Schnorr blind signatures doesn't really concern you as a user. Right, the user interface doesn't really show you that that change has happened, but it is a huge increase, right? So we're here going really into the nitty-gritty details to teach the teachers, but those that really end up using this wallet for a general use case, they will, I think, find other easier information or just use the really intuitive user interface. So yeah, it was, as always, a pleasure. And Piers, download the Wasabi wallet and reclaim your privacy today. And it was, as always, a pleasure here talking to you all, and see you on the next show. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.